Antisocial Personality Disorder, also known as ASPD or sociopathy, by Abby, Daisy, Lara, and Veronica. Based on their mental health conditions, how supported are sociopaths? Currently, those with ASPD or sociopathy are being supported to the best ability possible. However, there is always room for improvement as time goes on and we learn more about the condition. It is important and significant to better support and educate on the subject of ASPD because it can lead to positive impacts on individuals and therefore greater societal impacts, such as improved structures and support for mental disorders. Lenses. We will be analyzing our claim, evidence, and reasoning through the scientific, environmental, and political lens. Solution. Currently, newborn infants are being screened for various genetic disorders. Our solution is to add an additional screening process for the genetic factor of ASPD. Babies who are diagnosed with the gene factor of ASPD will be closely monitored in their home life and environment. If things seem to be going wrong, they may be removed from the unhelpful environment and be provided therapy. Pros. There are many advantages to our solution, including the fact that it will prevent unstable environments and reduce crime rates. This is because individuals prone to ASPD will be closely monitored in their homes, preventing abuse. It can help reduce crime, as most people committing crimes have this disorder. Monitoring should also help decrease the population of people with the disorder. Cons. The solution also has some disadvantages. This includes partial inaccuracy. The Minnesota Department of Health says that it is possible for children to have an abnormal or positive test result with no issues with the disorder later on in life. Another issue could be reach. Some people don't have the ability to pay for a hospital birth. Therefore, they are unable to get their child screened. It may also be hard for some home visitors to detect anything wrong in abusive households. Lastly, it might seem unethical to some, resulting in prevention of diagnosis as parents have the ability to deny the right of screening due to their beliefs.
Looking through the scientific lens, antisocial personality disorder is an under-researched mental disorder that affects 1 to 4% of the population, mostly men. ASPD became known as a term to describe a distinguishing trait of widespread disregard for social norms in a way that jeopardizes others. Someone with this condition will manifest themselves in extreme antisocial attitudes. The Diagnostic and Statistic Manual of Mental Disorders, also known as the DSM, which is Descriptions, Symptoms, and Other Criteria Regarding Mental Disorders, reveals that failure to follow the law, manipulation, fraud, and incapability to establish strong impersonal relationships are all violations and main symptoms of the condition. People suffering from ASPD are unlikely to seek support. However, their primary care doctor may refer them to a mental health specialist. The diagnosis is primarily based on a psychological assessment, patient history, and the DSM-4, which represents the consensus of current formulations of evolving knowledge in the psychiatric field. A patient must meet all clinical criteria stated in the DSM-4 to be diagnosed with this condition. ASPD is incurable. There are no medications specifically for this condition, although there are medications and treatments that can help alleviate symptoms, including impulsive and aggressive behavior. It becomes highly challenging to treat when the symptoms are severe, and it can appear in a variety of ways depending on the individual. Discovering appropriate treatment may assist in modifying destructive behavior, ultimately causing less harm to society and others. Second-generation antipsychotics, specifically used to address aggressive behavior, which consists of risperidone and quetiapine. In addition, anticonvulsants such as oxcarbazepine and carbamazepine, which control abnormal electrical activity in the brain, can be used to treat impulsivity. Connecting back to our solution, if newborn children were to be screened, the prefrontal cortex, superior temporal gyrus, amygdala hippocampal complex, and the anterior cingulate cortex are genetic factors that would be looked at, as they are key areas typically identified to be damaged in antisocial individuals.
Environmental factors play a vital role in the formation of ASPD. Environments that encourage this condition include child maltreatment, such as growing up in physically, sexually, or emotionally abusive homes, lacking parental figures, or experiencing neglect. Exposure to these environments may predispose antisocial tendencies by causing individuals to develop a lack of emotions such as empathy, which may lead to abnormal or criminal behavior. Children who are neglected and not properly cared for during childhood develop attachment issues. Children who do not have secure attachments are unable to be fully supported during childhood, and they are unable to receive the support and care necessary for a healthy upbringing, causing them to solely rely on themselves. This forced self-reliance may lead to the formation of antisocial traits as individuals are unable to comprehend right from wrong if there is no parental figure available to provide guidance or discipline. Ineffective parenting styles, such as being uninvolved in the child's life or promoting or encouraging sociopathic traits, may lead the child to learn such tendencies or continue them further into adulthood. Substantial evidence displays a gene-environment correlation prominent in the etiology of this illness, meaning that both a genetic and environmental component is necessary for the development of this illness. As seen in an experiment conducted by Kring Fu, 69% of the variance was attributed to genetics, while 31% of the variance was attributed to environmental influences. Individuals who grow up in adverse environments and also carry specific genes or biological abnormalities are more susceptible to developing this condition. This is due to an interaction between adverse environments and biological deficiencies such as damaged prefrontal cortex or superior temporal gyrus. Due to the violent behavior and illegal crimes sociopaths frequently perpetrate, these individuals place a significant burden on society. Sociopaths tend to violate others' rights through engaging in criminal acts such as murder or rape as a result of lack of emotional regulation and empathy. Linking back to our solution, early home visitation programs may be an effective strategy to reduce the conditions which lead to child abuse and incompetent parenting. These programs have been shown to enforce positive parenting practices promoting healthy childhood development through determining whether the child's home environment is safe and may then take appropriate action. They may look for signs of abuse and neglect, and if found, may remove the child from the dangerous environment, or they may aid the parents who may be struggling to care for their child.
According to Rule 20 of the Minnesota Rules of Criminal Procedure, a crime is able to be dismissed. However, this is only when it is believed that the individual who committed the crime cannot be held accountable. This is usually due to a mental illness or a developmental disorder. The way that they can benefit from this has to be through a psychiatric evaluation. However, individuals with ASPD are very good liars and therefore are able to hide the fact that they have this disorder and therefore cannot benefit from Rule 20. In addition, sociopathy is a socially defined concept, meaning that it is diagnosed by people and not a lab test, which makes it hard to extrapolate into a specific category, especially when the symptoms overlap those of others, including borderline personality disorder, bipolar disorder, and narcissistic personality disorder. However, in light of our solution, say a person gets diagnosed at birth. This diagnosis goes on their medical records. This person then goes on to commit a crime and goes to court. However, when they get this psychiatric evaluation, the psychiatrist is able to see on their medical history that they have been diagnosed with ASPD, and now the individual is able to get the help that they need. As stated in the scientific and environmental lens, sociopaths are prone to committing crimes. In fact, although only 3% of the population has ASPD, almost half of all jail inmates have been recognized as someone with this disorder. Therefore, a solution is not just helping individuals, but rather it is also helping society as a whole. It can decrease crimes such as rape, abduction, murder, and theft, which are all crimes commonly committed by people with antisocial personality disorder. And there are other many benefits, including decreased pain and suffering of victims, saving lives, relieving stress off of officers and police, and economic benefits. For example, a study conducted by public official officer Robert Shapiro found that decreasing crime in the U.S. can save around $14 billion a year.
Okay, thank you. Round of applause. A couple couple of questions. Daisy, reflecting on your colleagues' work, which one had the greatest impact on your overall understanding of the problem that your group identified?
Initially, we believed that the environmental lens had the greatest impact due to the fact that a major component of ASPD is the environment in which they grew up in. However, we came to understand that although it played a bigger role, the scientific lens helped us come up with a solution. This is because our solution involved the genetic factors involved with ASPD, which specifically includes scanning the prefrontal cortex, superior temporal gyrus, amygdala hippocampal complex, and the anterior cingulate cortex, as these are key areas typically identified to be damaged with antisocial individuals. This snowballed us into figuring out what to do once they were identified with this component.
Okay, thanks, Daisy. Veronica, describe an argument from one of your peers' individual reports that made you think differently about your team's solution or conclusion.
A main argument from one of our peers' individual reports that made us think differently about our solution is the scientific perspective. This is because we knew that the genetic factor played a role in developing the disorder, and we would need to incorporate a part that helped monitor people's home lives. However, the scientific lens allowed us to see that there was a way in which we would know who to monitor, as we didn't know there would be a genetic factor that could make someone more inclined to this disorder.
Okay, thank you. Abby, what's a way in which your team's resolution makes you think differently about your own individual research?
Our team's final solution made me think differently about my individual research because I initially had a different solution for my specific lens. This was to have more funding put towards researching ASPD so researchers can find a more effective solution rather than just using medications to alleviate symptoms. As we were compiling information and learning about other lenses, I learned that treatment options were not necessary in order to help because many of them focus on alleviating symptoms rather than solving the issue. Rather, we should focus on the root and try to help individuals who may be prone to ASPD by becoming more aware of signs earlier on.
Thanks, Abby. Lara, if you had another team member, what other perspectives could they have researched that would have made a useful contribution to your project?
If we had another team member, we would most likely include the historical perspective. This is because it would allow us to understand mistakes that have been made, such as not being able to discern it well from similar mental health disorders, since many of them share similar traits. In addition, patterns that might otherwise be invisible at the time could be noticeable to us. For example, certain symptoms as well as where it originated from. For example, researchers may not have known that there was a genetic factor or that much of it stems from childhood